camera.
Yeah, I figure might as well do. I mean, all these platforms, they simplify it. So it's just like one button, then it just uploads to like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all that. So I might as well like maximize it.
Okay, so what? Yeah,
And I think
why do most podcasts suck then? Because they
it's
don't
not
make the
that the
26
content
weeks or
sucks, but like 99% of them don't record more than 26 episodes.
yeah. I mean,
And
that's a
so,
lot of
like, if you're
talking.
not creating anything, then that means that 99% of them pretty much like suck because it's really no different than not having anything.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but I also think most people can't talk for 26 episodes or whatever that is, or you know what I mean? Like there's like a finite amount of things you can talk about. So it's especially if you're like pigeonholing yourself to like a specific topic, like I don't know. I guess
Like,
maybe
well, I mean, no, give me a topic. I think it's just a matter of like creativity. And like the easiest way is just to get guests on.
yeah, I guess help, but it's
Like,
also
think
has
of
to
a
be like
super niche
guests.
topic.
Yeah, yeah, but there has to be guests that people want to see or they even know about that exist, right? And what's like there's only a few topics where there's like worthy guests where you're like, oh, like I'm actually curious what they have to say, right? I mean, like even like this podcast, like um, I don't know who's considered like a good father or a bad father, right?
That's the beauty of it. We want to hear from bad fathers too. I mean,
Who's
this one
willing
is
to?
easy
Okay, but
because
who's
we
willing to?
can,
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. There's a lot of fathers out there,
it's not
but then
just fathers, but
who's
like
gonna listen to
per,
this?
who's
Who's
going to
gonna
listen
listen
to
to?
this?
Yeah, is it gonna
That's the
be?
thing. I don't want us to create this with the intent of like, let's make this big or,
Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah. I understand.
let's talk about for the it really should be more about just you and me like shooting the shit and it's just people being able to like spy on us.
Okay.
But in the reality in the beginning, our wives, maybe our friends, that's about it. But that's the thing. It's kind of like with business and whenever you start, it's kind of like you get nothing for like 6 months to a year. And then
Hmm.
eventually, if you're consistent, you have like that hockey puck growth. But with this, the number of like kind of tailwinds I see is one, I feel like there is a overall problem of like just fertility and people not having kids and people
Yeah.
having kids at an older age. So
I
there's
mean,
definitely be
we're
like,
repping the bottom two right now.
yeah, I mean, and I don't want to call ourselves old dads either. So like moving forward, let's just call ourselves like refined dads. Because I feel like
Fine.
old, yeah,
I don't
old has a
believe. I
negative
believe.
connotation.
You don't
And I
have any
feel like old
experience.
is
So how can
actually
you refine?
better. I'm sorry?
I said you don't have any experience. You can't call yourself refined. You're going off zero. You're like a raw material still.
I'm a
There's no
wannabe
refinement. You're like
refined
crude.
dad. We call
You're
that what it
crude
is.
oil. You're crude oil. I'm like I don't know. I'm still like a regular. At least I've been partially refined. I've gone through the system a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, our main goals should be we should have fun. It should help us. And yeah, the most important thing is that we're just ourselves. And it's
Yeah.
more of the perspective of like, hey, someone gets to like be a fly in the wall of just us talking.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, yeah. When it came down to it, I was like, all right, well, talking to Jeff once a week is doesn't sound that bad anyway. So
And the things we could talk about are endless. It's not just about being a dad, but if there's like current events, like speaking about it from the perspective of like a dad or something.
okay. Yeah. I mean, I
So
guess we
there's
can. Hmm.
yeah, there's endless amounts of like topics. And if we run out of like shit to talk about, that's when we start inviting like Phil and everyone.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
interesting.
But
All right.
yeah, my biggest concern is, like I said, consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
you
for
know.
me, actually, yeah. for me, it's more of like a yeah. Can't when will I make the time and technological issues, I guess, right? Because right now, like uh, I asked to sell to take May to the library so I could do this here because the WeWork thing just seemed too. Yeah, I didn't want to deal with that. I don't want to drive out there and but yeah. I think going
To be like,
forward, like it would
yeah.
be once school year started, maybe I could just use the school as like a like after school I could just do it if that time works for you. But yeah, that's gonna be my biggest issue is just like where and then tech. Yeah,
Not to be a dick, but if you can't find free Wi-Fi in the United States in 30 minutes out of
I
a week,
understand.
you
Okay,
know.
but where can I find a place just to like talk? Where there's like not people walking around. That's the issue, right? Um,
Yeah, I would say like worst case, go in your car.
yeah. I'm saying yeah, car is
Yeah.
doable. I just it's still a question of like uh you know will my hotspot work or you know what I mean? Like that's what it comes down to. It's not going to be yeah I can find the time. It's just going to be like location and tech. Yeah.
What are you using? Are you using a hotspot right now?
No, I'm using the Wi-Fi in my house, my apartment.
Oh,
But
okay.
like
Oh,
right
it's
now,
like
like
when you
I'm right next
go.
to the router, it's like no problem. But if I go to my car, which is not close to the router, then there's going to be an issue. So then I might have to hotspot it, and hotspots are kind of hit and miss. So I don't want to like screw up potential content because you know what I mean? Because you want the organic responses and all that stuff if you're going to do this, and
Again, this
I
is
don't
for
want
us. So, like, if there are pauses or like there's tech problems, like, so be it. But that's the main reason why I wanted to use these software because it eliminates a lot of that, like tech issues,
to.
like bad like video, audio quality, etc. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I mean, okay.
all right. So
So
yeah.
what? Bring
Other
out the
than
question.
that, just I would say like like send like three questions or topics we can talk about, and we don't
Hmm.
have to go through all six. I'm thinking we just go through like three, like, hey, which one do you want to talk about? And then yeah, just kind of let it flow like we're actually just kind of hanging out.
Okay.
Sound good?
All right.
All right.
Well, out of the ones you sent me, that kind of overlap for both of us would be, I guess, um, yeah, about like why we're doing this. I guess we kind of already talked about it.
Actually, yeah,
Um,
what's your reasoning? Like, why did you agree to it?
yeah, I mean, honestly, just I thought, yeah, um, I mean, like, yeah, having conversations, even though we're not like in person, it's still like basically in person, I guess, to an extent. And yeah, I mean, I haven't been talking to people that much, especially the last year and a bit. So I figured just for like my mental health, it's not a bad thing. And I mean, I always enjoy your talking to you, and yeah. So both of those things kind of like after thinking about, it, I was like, yeah, like I didn't really see a negative, other than just time away from the fam. But you also need that too, right? So yeah, those are the
Do you
primary
not
reasons.
talk with like Newton, Phil,
I
the usual people?
mean, I text once in a while if I see them, yeah, but then like I'm not. It's not like I'm seeing them like one every week,
Okay.
you know. Just kind of depends, whenever I see them. But yeah, I mean, I probably like every other week, maybe. Just depends. But yeah, just I haven't really. I don't know. I haven't wanted to talk to people. I guess much. Um, yeah. So, you know, it's yeah. If it was anybody else, yeah, I don't know. because I know, yeah, you're just, yeah, we've been through a lot together, so it's like, I can be myself around you, and um, yeah, I mean, we always talk like normally, so yeah, it's like didn't
Yeah.
seem.
I think I ask good questions too, more than the average person.
You,
So,
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You definitely do. Yeah. So like, if anybody else thought about doing a podcast, I'd be like, no, no way. But you, yeah, I mean, you could. Yeah, this is something you could do for sure. I think so. Yeah.
okay. For me, simply, yeah, just therapy. It's always healthy to talk to someone. I also have like a list of like life principles I want to live by. One of them is to live like a scientist, meaning treat everything that I do in life as an experiment instead of like seeing it as like I have to fail. Like if you see it from the framework of like, oh, this is just an experiment to see if it works or not. So, yeah, I just wanted to see how this goes. Just trying something
Okay.
new. There's pretty low friction to get it started.
Hmm.
Like I said, the difficult part would be to be consistent at it.
Live like a scientist, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I understand what you mean. Like, have like that, maybe like curiosity and keep uh discovering, kind of.
It's not even more so that, but like I think when most people do things in life, they look at it from the frame of like, am I gonna succeed or fail? And a lot of
Mm,
people don't try different things because they're, ego related reasons. So like, I may fail. What is this gonna look like to other people? Or I'll feel bad about myself. So they don't really try it. But when
mm.
scientists do experiments, they don't look at it from that frame of like, oh, am I going to succeed or fail? It purely is like, oh, this is an experiment. My goal is to see if I succeed or fail from this. And if it fails, then I'll be one step closer to like finding out what my like theory is.
Yeah, I mean, that is true to an extent, but I also feel like, most scientists are like funded, right? Backed by some body or something, Like I
You
feel,
are. I mean, but
yeah,
I'm not saying I'm going to put on a white lab coat for it's just taking a piece of something that scientists do. I understand like
yeah.
yeah, they might be biased when they go into like their studies, but that's why they say like randomized like double blind studies, are like the gold standard, etc. I understand some of them might be funded by big corporations, but yeah, I'm
That's what I'm
funded by
saying though,
no
like the
one.
failing aspect, right? The willingness to fail is kind of mitigated by the backing, right? You know what I'm saying? If you have like genuine 100% curiosity, then and like no fear of failure, then you're going to fund your own failure. You know what I mean? Those people are rare, and I think like that combination like doesn't exist a lot because there's like this kind of I feel like there's like an entrepreneurial aspect that has to be like involved as well, because you need money.
I think I'm a little bit more idealistic and optimistic about researchers. I feel like in the beginning, they truly are doing something because they have a curiosity about a theory and they want to
Yeah, yeah,
test
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah. I
out.
agree with that.
But at a certain point, they need money to, further their research. And that's where like the funding comes in. And some of the funding sources might not be 100% objective. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's just it helps me to do more things if I don't look at it from a am I gonna fail or succeed, but more from a perspective of hey, I'm doing this so I find out if I'm gonna fail or succeed.
Mhm. So, what
Yeah.
does success look like in the podcast, and what does failure look like, in your opinion? Since you're trying to like quantify something right there, right? A little bit.
Success, one, like I said before, do I enjoy doing it? Is it fun for me? I think once it starts becoming a chore and it becomes like work, that's
Mm,
probably like your first signal that you should stop doing it.
mm,
And it should be because not because like I don't enjoy the reasons why I should stop is because I actually just don't enjoy like talking to you or it gets redundant and it's like I kind of dread it. Reasons why I shouldn't quit is like all the other stuff like oh I got a bad comment and so like I feel bad and or like oh like the post editing process is like so much work so I don't want to do it. Things like that.
mm.
Um it's kind of like being a professional basketball player. I feel like as long as you enjoy actually playing the game, you should continue doing it. You shouldn't quit because of like the business aspects of basketball or like you don't
Yeah,
like the
but I
owner
mean,
or
at some
something.
point, there's like it's tough, right? If you're mm, even like a basketball player, it's like Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Guy's making $40 million, just then he doesn't like basketball or he doesn't really care. Like there's no
Yeah.
Mamba mentality there. He doesn't love the game. He doesn't want to put in the work. Like he's just yeah.
Doing it
So
for the
it's
paycheck.
yeah, doing it for the paycheck. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if
Yeah,
we
you really should
hypothetically
quit. I
get to the
mean,
point? What if you get to the point where we're just like sponsored out the wazoo and we're like killing it, but at the same time we're like miserable and we don't want to like we're just like pressing for content and like it's like those like I think it's like YouTubers like all those guys have to go through all anybody who's like creating content or whatever that is. It's like there is a point where it becomes there has to be a point where it's like a chore. But then like then maybe the money's good enough and you're like who cares if it's a chore,
I
fake it.
think it's the whole using the researcher and scientist example, I think is a good analogy. They may enjoy doing the research and testing things, but maybe it becomes a chore when they start having to, when they have like investors or funders that they have to answer to, and then they have to
Hmm.
start taking meetings,
Hmm.
etc.
Yeah.
Um, I understand it's a necessary evil, but in terms of creating content, I feel if we stick true to what our original goal of this was and we get sponsors or whatever from that, then that means what we're doing was right. And I feel like once we start changing that to cater to somebody or to whoever, audience or sponsors, then that kind of changes our original intent and goal. And I think that's when it becomes not enjoyable.
Well, I think one good thing about both of us in that regard is that uh, we're not in this for the money. You know, I'm it's not. Yeah, it's just like not even a. Yeah, it's like a 0% actually, literally. So,
Yeah.
um,
So that's kind of the long answer. Yeah, those are my success metrics. As long as we enjoy it, um, yeah, I like to keep things simple. Failure would be there really is no failure. At the end of the day, it's like I said, it's like an experiment. I find out that no longer will I have to think about like, oh, like I should do a podcast or whatever. Like now I know that podcasts are not for me for X and Y reasons instead of like, how many people do you meet that actually say like, oh, like I have a great podcast idea or I should do this, but don't actually fucking do it,
yeah,
So now I'll know at
true.
the end. Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
What success or failure? I
Success
never even
and
thought of.
what does success look like and what does failure look like for you?
For me, like didn't even never even thought about it. It was just like it was just as simple as do I want to do it? Can I do it? That's it. Like I didn't I don't think about it in yeah. There's no never even dawned on me. Yeah, I mean, 'cause it's like your idea, so I was like, okay, well, if you came up with it, like, what are your expectations if you have any? Like, I just don't. I have zero. Like,
Let me
actually.
reframe the question. Like I said, my goal is 27 episodes. They'll put us in the top 1%. So at the end of 6 months,
Yeah.
if you were to look back then, what would you say like, yeah, this was successful?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
are like your metrics of
yeah,
success?
I want. Okay, yeah, fine. I want to make the 26 weeks just because I agreed to do it,
Okay.
right? So I
So
want to,
commitment to yourself
yeah,
and to
commitment to
me, kind
myself
of.
and to you. Yeah, that I'll do it. Um, yeah, just I guess, yeah. If I, yeah, like you said, if I enjoy it, then that's success.
Okay.
And failure would just be, missing an episode and like knowing I could have done it, like just copping out, just bitching out because I just for whatever reason isn't there shouldn't be yeah we should be able to do it. So that would be a failure for me. Like if I just let you down and didn't make the commitment for like not a good reason. Yeah.
Fair enough. Um, what's another question on the list?
Where's your phone? Yeah, I keep having to reopen my. You asked me. Well, I asked you. Um, okay, yeah. Well, like I guess we didn't talk about it, but like, why specifically dads? You know, especially as a non-dad yet, unless you want to tell me something.
Hmm.
Why specifically dads?
Two reasons. One is business, like I said, there's a lot of tailwinds in regards to refined dads. Um, and pretty easy to create content. There's a lot of guest dads, but more than that, it is really about like for me being the best version of yourself and being
The best
talking about
version,
that.
best dad you can be, like that.
Best version of myself, not best
Okay. I
version
mean, the
of
best version of
dad.
yourself will be the best dad.
Yeah.
Will be the best dad you can be. Okay. I
And
mean, yeah, that's
I'll kind of go into that later, but yeah, I feel like it's simply I think it's a good idea for a podcast. I don't know if
yeah,
it exists or not. I intentionally didn't look because if I did look and there's like fucking 100 podcasts, I'll be like pretty dispirited and not as motivated. But I'm assuming there's like nothing.
yeah.
And then I thought like,
Yeah. Like I said, I read some kind of weird statistic where there's just like so many podcasts now. So I'm
yeah,
like,
there's
all
a
right,
shit
well,
ton.
yeah.
And
So
I
it's
think
like,
I have like a cool angle on this of like the whole Clooney dads thing, right? Like everyone loves George Clooney, he didn't do anything bad, in the Me Too movement, so he's pretty safe. Women love him, men love him. And this motherfucker, like, I feel like he did it right in life. He seems like pretty authentic. He seems happy, and especially in regards to like just marriage, business. Like I feel like he did it right. And I looked it up when to see like when he had his first kids, and he didn't have it until like 56. So I feel like that gives me like 11 years, 11 years like cushion.
you
Um,
need 11 years cushion. Elizabeth ain't getting
I'm
no younger.
45, so yeah,
Yeah, but
he had
Elizabeth's 40.
children at 56, yeah. So there's a business reason, and then the personal reason was, yeah, like I said, I think it's healthy to just have someone to talk to. And then two, yeah, I was curious about like podcasts. A lot of people told me like, "Oh, you should do a podcast. You ask like good questions." It was always like, "What the fuck would I talk about?" And there's like nothing special about me, right? That's like unique. Um, so yeah, that's kind of
No, I'd say you're probably the. I would say your question asking is unique, Jeff, for sure. I mean, you're not normal.
my question asking is you it's in the top 20%, but I feel like it's not in the top like 0.1%.
I just think
It's
that
like better
coming
than most. Yeah, it's about it.
for a person who does like no research, like off the cuff, you're yeah, you're good for sure. I mean, those people that you're probably trying to compare yourself to are people that are, they have writers and researchers, and like you don't know what their actual ability is, right?
I don't think I have the raw intelligence. I feel like it takes two
No.
things to ask good questions is one is curiosity
Hmm.
about the other, and two is raw intelligence. I
Yeah, I
think I have
mean,
average intelligence, but I have good curiosity and like really good question, like people ask good questions that I consider like in the point one, they all
okay,
have like just high raw
okay, who
intelligence.
who are these people? Out of curiosity, who
I
are
mean,
these
a
people
simple
that
one would
you?
be like Tim Ferriss. Like he has high raw intelligence.
I've never heard the dude, but I know you and Phil like worship him, so
And
I get
there's
it.
other like, Silicon Valley like, tech whatever people that are, you know, by just hearing them like they're just
Okay, but
unique.
again, like
Like
Tim Ferriss has a podcast. Tim Ferriss he's monetized. Like this is like his job. Like you don't know how much like work he's doing on the back end, like
most
researching
of the
and
work he does is
yeah,
researching
that's what
whoever
I'm
his
saying.
guest is.
Yeah, Jeff, if you had if you wanted to do that, I'm sure you'd be great at it. It was just, you know, so just not anything that's interested you. Oh,
Yeah, my other like life principle is that everything is a skill set. So yeah, I guess if I ask more questions, I get better at it. So okay. But what was the original question
everything is
again?
skill set. I just asked like why specifically, right? The dad's thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business, tailwind, good, kind of unique angle. Like I said, our goal is to have George Clooney on as a guest.
Yeah, I mean that was funny. When you said that's the goal, I was like, okay, that's actually pretty funny.
Yeah,
It's like the Shack and
and
the Big Knife thing, You see that thing?
the
Yeah, but I
shack
don't
and
know.
no, what is that?
So like there's this company and they make like small pocket knives or whatever. And that's like their thing. Like they make pocket knives, they're supposed to fit in your pocket. And I guess they were like trying to find like a new manufacturer in China or something, or I don't know what happened. But anyways, China sent them, the factory sent them this massive pocket knife, like humongous, like where the handle's like this big and the blade's like this, right? So it's like a
Okay.
ridiculous. It's not a pocket knife. So they were like, look at this thing. Like they're like, who would even use this as a pocket knife? They're like, oh, Shaq would use this as a pocket knife. So then they were like went on Instagram or whatever and like just kept on tagging Shaq, like, hey, this get the pocket knife for you. And then like it went kind of viral, and then like so their goal was to get Shaq to hold that pocket knife, and they were just carrying it around with them all the time, just in case they ran into Shaq. It was kind of funny. It was like they made it into like they monetized that, like it was like their little mission, the company mission, whatever. So I was like, oh, that was really smart. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm sure you'll be shitting bricks if that ever happens, but
The pocket knife story. What's your takeaway from that?
as far as what? I mean, yeah, it's just
Why
like
they succeeded?
I mean, yeah, because people kind of want to. I don't know. People want to see the journey, People like to see the journey and the struggle, and people we're just like this. We're in this age where we're just like obsessed with like voyeurism and like just like what I mean, like living vicariously through other people's lives. It's just like this weird time. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know what happened to that company after that, but I'm sure for a while, like they had a lot of traction because that one little thing, like you know, yeah, a lot of people saw it, and even if people didn't see it, it'll always be in the annals of YouTube or whatever the hell they were using, and so like I'm sure it'll just pop up on one of their little doom scrolling sessions, and they'll see it and they'll like laugh about it, like, oh, that's funny, like the Shack knife.
So I feel like most people hear that story and kind of the first thought would be like, "Oh, that was a good idea." But
Mm.
the takeaway I get from it is like they were basically consistent.
Yeah, that's true. It's consistent.
Like the idea was great, but if they weren't consistent, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Hmm.
And I feel
Yeah.
like that's what most people kind of mm, don't see in a lot of successes is the
Mm.
consistency and the persistence and just
Hmm.
keeping at it.
Yeah. There's even like there are like graffiti artists, or like those street art guys who like do the same. They come up with like their logo, or whatever. They just tag everything, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually that tag has enough traction where they can like get a clothing brand or whatever. Yeah, it's just like years of just consistently tagging the same thing like everywhere, and it's like finally it hits for whatever reason. So yeah, I mean, plenty of examples. So what, we have to come up with like our punchline at the end of every at the end of
No,
every
I would just say like, yeah, maybe
George
the
Clooney,
end of
please
each
collab.
episode, our goal is to get George Clooney on this
George
podcast.
Clooney, please collab.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Last question for each one of us. Yeah, your one piece of advice as an older dad, if you just had to give one, like what's the 80/20?
Yeah. Um, I think it's pretty simple. You know, if you if you genuinely, well, I mean, I think it just starts with it. You have to, if you don't love your kid, if you don't love being a parent, I mean, you're kind of screwed, and the kid's kind of screwed. I mean, that's like
So
the
let's assume you
very
love your
basic.
kid.
Yeah, if you love your kid and you genuinely want the best for your kid, then yeah, you just have to make sure that they feel loved, which means spending time with them, making sure they have a voice, that they're heard, right? Um, so that's one thing, and then also structure. You just have to. The kids feel safe when there's like a schedule, right? There's a structure, but also like and the discipline, right? If your kid knows like they're safe and you're gonna create there's boundaries set for them and they feel loved, everything else don't matter. Honestly, they'll be all right because they know that there's rules and they know that they're loved. How?
So yeah, let's just assume that you love your kid, so we won't count that. So if I understand you correctly, it kind of boils down to three things for you. Like you said, spending time with them, making sure that they're heard, and then third was structure,
Yeah, like
correct?
discipline. Yeah, discipline, boundaries. Yeah, I mean,
Which of those three do you think is the most difficult to execute on?
for most people,
For most people
probably
and
the
for you.
probably the discipline. Honestly, the boundaries. Yeah, because I always tell people, if you don't respect your own words, why would they? You know, why would your kid respect your words if you don't even respect the words you're saying? So like if you say something, you better do it, or your word means nothing to them, right?
And that's your definition of discipline?
Yeah. I mean, if when discipline is a lot of like, there's consequences, and if you don't execute those consequences, they know that you're not going to, right? They know there's a way to get out of it, and they'll exploit it to no end, and that's everybody. That's all humans. So if you want that respect, because you need respect and you want the love, right? If you get both those things, you got it. So, and the only way you're
So I
going to
feel
get it
like
is go
there
ahead.
is a difference between discipline and keeping your word.
Not in parenting.
For instance, you can tell your kid like, "Hey, I'm going to take you to batting practice on Thursday," and like you keep your word on that. And so
Hmm.
that's a display of discipline. But what if you like tell your family like, "Hey, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds by the end of the month, and so I'm gonna go on this diet and I'm gonna exercise at least 3 times a week." But you don't do that, and you
Hmm.
like fail.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a poor model of discipline to your kids.
Yeah,
Would
that's
you say
true.
those two things are the same thing or are they different?
I mean, they're different. Um, yeah, I mean, modeling is yeah. I mean, I think those are like characteristics, right? Like what kind of characteristics are you trying to instill in your kids? And then yeah, that's a different to me. That's a different thing. That's like way more nuanced than like because you told me like the basic stuff, right?
Okay.
I'm like, okay, if you're talking about just straight up basics, love, and discipline, that's what they need. Everything else is like, I mean, you're talking super nuanced stuff, but because like every characteristic, yeah, it comes through experience, right? And you have to create those experiences or show model them, and yeah, I mean that's just those are way more specific. So we can get into that some other time, I guess.
In regards to the time piece, does quantity matter or is it simply just quality?
Um, Quantity. No, I'd say tough. Right? What are you talking quality? Like, I mean, if you're not spending a lot of time with your kid, it's probably of your own choice, I would think, right? To an extent. Um, so if you're already doing that, I can't imagine the quality being there, you know?
So I feel for most people, not most people, but I feel like to succeed at anything, you kind of need to live in seasons. You can't really live a balanced approach. And so, what if I was to tell my family, hey, I'm working on this new business or I've acquired a new business. It requires like 80% of my time. And I basically need to do this for 6 months. And maybe at the end of 6 months, when things like calm down or, like things get better, where I can be more hands off, then at that time the season changes where now it's more like family season and I can be more fully present towards you during that time. Or like, yeah, 80% from I have to wake up at 6 and I'm not, go to work and then I have to be back at like 10 p.m. But from like 10:30, from 10 to 10:30 a.m., I'm going to be fully present for you there. I
I
don't see
mean,
anything wrong with that. I feel like that's better than, like kind of mediocre or halfway being like fully present or engaged when you're with your child because you're thinking about your business or some other issues in life that you may have.
yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. So you're saying that, hmm, because you
I don't
said
think
six
quantity
months,
matters
right?
as much. I think it's overrated.
You think you said 6 months of like just you're going to be kind of absent,
Yeah, 80% of my time will be devoted towards my business.
and then 20% of the time will be to your family.
Yeah, but in that 20% of the time, I'm fully there.
Okay, but you can say that in words, but like actually doing that is
That's a
not.
different thing too. Yeah, the
Yeah, I
execution of
mean,
everything is
I'm telling
difficult.
you, because I've already done that, right? And it's hard because in that 20%, because you gave so much in that 80, you don't have a lot left, actually.
I feel like it's easier. I feel like for most, it's difficult because they try to balance both.
Yeah, I mean, talk. You can say whatever you want, Jeff, but you haven't lived it.
You don't think so?
You haven't lived it though.
That's true, but you say like it's difficult for you, right? Because you're spending what percentage of your time during for work or for something else?
Um, yeah, it just depends on the day, but yeah, it's probably. I mean, if you're just talking about pure hours and stuff like
Don't think
time,
about
that's
day, like think about it in seasons. So like maybe a month. or a week, or as short as a week, as long as maybe like 3 months or 6 months. Let's just say you're devoting like like 50% to like work. And then so the other 50% you devote to your family, and that's really difficult. But what if you told your family, like, hey, this is like work season, I need to boil down. So, like, instead of 50%, it's going to be like 80 to 90% for
Okay, I mean,
like three
okay, but so
months.
you're talking as
Do you
if your
think it would be
kids
easier for
are
you if you did that?
okay, but you're talking as if your kids can understand what the hell you're saying.
That's true. It
Huh?
differs. It depends on like how old they are.
Okay,
Granted, if
yeah,
they're like
okay,
2 years
but
old,
what
that's a little
I'm
bit
telling,
different.
okay, yeah. So the problem with that is that that only works when your kids are older and they don't even give a shit about you anymore, right? If you're talking
True.
to a teenager, they don't even want that 20,
Yeah.
you know? But that teenager, right? Um, the teenager will loop back to you if you put that time in before, right? At newborn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those 6, 7, those are the years where you got to put the work in, right? Because that's when you're forming the person that you want them to be, right?
So you think quantity is almost a non-negotiable in their early ages?
Uh, yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen, yeah, I mean, it's because when you're a kid, you just see it's very black and white. It's either my parents are spending time with me or they're not, and that's it, right? But if they see you prioritizing other things ahead of them, they're going to be like, oh, work is more important than me, right? I mean, there's no other way to see it. They're just little and they just know, oh, mommy has to work. Oh, daddy has to work. They can't spend time with me. I got to go hang out by myself, right? That then after a while, they're going to think like, oh, work is more important than me, right? I
No, yeah,
mean,
that makes sense.
it makes
It's a
sense. They're
logical
too young.
connection. I
They're
guess I
too
can see the
young to
make.
know anything else, right? That's all they understand. And so after a while, they're just going to have, their relationship is not going to be as good. They're going to be able to detach because they have to, because they have to survive, right? They can't depend on their parents to spend time with them, to entertain them, and to, give them value. So they're just going to detach and they're going to be like, okay, I'm just going to go play on my video game or be on my iPad or play by myself. Nobody spends time with me, you know? Um, and those are those kids that are going to be kind of like socially awkward or don't have empathy or you know what I mean, like they're going to be missing certain things of like they're going to be socially a little stunted, I think. uh
Will it matter if you set the expectation from the start?
Again, I can talk to a 1-year old. Okay, baby, like daddy has to go to work. I still love. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about work, and
But if
they
they're
don't
one
understand what
year
you're
old, that
saying.
can make the logical conclusion that my dad is not here, so he must prioritize other things besides me. If he has the processing powers to connect
No,
those
no, but
two
he's just like,
things,
okay, I'm saying like, but he's not gonna bond with you. There's no bond there. He's not gonna be, oh, I love daddy. He spends time with me. He makes me happy. There's gonna be no connection there. Like, oh, that guy. Oh, some dude. You know. I'll give you a prime example, Jeff. Okay. Um, I told you like the whole nursery thing when I was growing up, right?
no.
Or was it just Phil? Ooh, that's an interesting one. That's like a whole. Okay. So I thought I told you. Yeah, when I was like a kid, um, I got separated from my parents for years, Jeff.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like the whole church thing, right? They put me in a nursery, and my parents worked.
Wait, how old were you?
All three of us. I was like 3 or 4, 3, 4, 5. I think those years. So my prime years of development, right?
Okay.
And I remember at some point thinking of my mom as, oh, that's the lady that shows up once in a while and gives me toys. There was a detachment there. Like I was just like, I don't remember. I don't remember my mom when I was like 5, 4. I don't remember her at all. Zero. I have no memories of her because she just wasn't around.
So you were just
You
in
know
the
who I do
nursery?
remember though? You know who I do remember? I remember the people that were there that took care of me. I remember them. I still remember their faces. I remember like I remember them. I remember my aunt Masami because she was there. She was there taking care of us. I remember like Laura since she was there. I remember her. My mom, yeah,
What about your dad?
yeah, he was. My dad was never there, so yeah.
You don't, but I'm assuming your mom was with you from birth to 3,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't really matter.
Not after a couple of years. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my sister, she had more of a like a traumatic response to it. Um, but yeah, for me, like I remember not because yeah, like you said, quantity, quality don't fucking matter when you like, you know. So my sister felt like genuine abandonment, you know. I didn't. Like yeah, for me it was different, but um, but yeah, I can tell you I was detached, and who knows, like I don't know what kind of issues it built within me, I don't know really. I mean,
So part of me thinks like that could be alleviated if your parents set better expectations from the start. But
again,
after a
3 year
certain
old.
but after a certain point, I can see the other side of like it's more like if there's not proof there, then yeah, the words don't actually matter.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could have told me whatever they wanted to me. To me, I didn't get it. I didn't know where. I didn't really understand. You can't explain that. It's like there's a feeling. Kaki could probably articulate it better because she was older, and she might actually know like some of the effects that it might have had on her. Um,
So then to wrap up the timepiece, your theory is that at an earlier age, ideally both time and quality, and maybe at like a later age, you can shift a little bit more towards quality.
yeah, I think the older they, I mean, just think about it. The older kids get, the less time they want to spend with you,
Uh,
right? But if you make those moments like, and they'll understand when you tell them, "Oh, daddy's working," or then like, "Hey," but then when you do spend time with them, it's like really quality time. They're gonna they're gonna respect the space, and they're gonna that's gonna have a stronger impact. But at a
and
younger age,
and I understand ideally both quality and quantity, but at a younger age, if you had to choose one, it seems you're leaning more towards better to have quantity.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the
Scary.
timepiece.
Hmm?
Let me ask you about, you said being heard.
Mm-hmm.
What does that entail?
Yeah, I mean, just feeling like you matter, like that you have a voice, like you actually like, like you're not just. Um, I think it creates value within a person, right? Always, if you feel like you're heard, you know. So when we talk to May, like I hear her out, I'm like, hey May, like I empower her, right, to think for herself. I'm like, hey May, if we have a conversation, you disagree with me, just tell me. If you can actually like tell me why you disagree, you might be able to change my mind, and that's empowering for a kid. Oh, I just have to come up with the argument, right? My dad can change his mind, right? Or like I affirm her good points. If she makes good points, I'm always like trying to um yeah, make sure that I'm listening. She knows I'm listening to her. Kind of like in the way you always repeat the question, right? That I ask. I know that's like you probably learned that somewhere, right? Yeah. But you know that it's affirming to the person who's talking,
Um,
right? And that's um yeah, because it creates like a environment of like a safe environment, right, to speak. So I understand what you're doing. Yeah, and I kind of do the same thing for May. I want to make sure that um, I'm not just gonna like disregard what she says because she's like a kid. Even though sometimes I do pull that parent card. I'm like, sorry, May, you're like you don't have a say in this one. But
So under that umbrella of feeling heard, right, there's a lot of different things like reiterating what they said,
mhm.
not judging or criticizing, allowing them to think independently. Do you think the strategy, not, I don't want to say strategies, but the principles of making sure someone else is heard is different for kids versus adults?
No, I think it all under. I think it all kind of falls under the umbrella of like I care about you. Like if I care about you as a person, I should make that effort to make sure that you are heard, that I heard you, by whatever eye contact or referencing what you said before. But it all comes from just a very simple place of like love. Like I care about you as a person, right? I mean, I think we do that for each other just because, like, you know what I mean? That's friends, right?
I
But
don't
then
think
again,
it comes naturally though to do that.
no, it does. If you
I feel
care, I
like
mean,
that's an X's and O's thing.
mm-mm. I think if you care, that you just do it. Like if I don't care about you, I'm not listening to what you're saying. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm just
What
like, you're like in one ear out the other. But if you're my friend and like I actually care about you, I'm gonna listen to you.
what percentage of people do you think feel heard in society?
Very little.
Right? Like less than 10%?
Yeah, less than 10%.
What
Yeah.
that means is that 90% of people are they're not listening. They're not making the other person feel heard.
Yeah, I would say that's probably true for the most part. Most
And
people don't
yeah,
care. Yeah.
but I feel like most people do care. Like I feel, especially within the family, and it's a probably the number one problem in terms of like marriages and relationships is the other doesn't feel heard. But I would say for most, like they genuinely like love and care for each other. It's just I don't think like I'm told you I'm part of this EO entrepreneurs group, and the two main principles of communication are like you reiterate what they say, and you know, there's no giving advice.
Okay.
Um, that's not common sense. I don't think that comes naturally, even though you really love and care about that person.
Yeah. I
I mean, look at
mean,
all the parents out there. It's like it's very rare for me to, yeah, it's very, I don't know. I see more toxic forms of communication.
mhm.
And I think that toxic form is not because they just don't care. I feel like it's just they haven't been trained on the X's and O's of like effective communication. And they
Yeah.
definitely don't
Okay.
teach that
Yeah.
in
Okay. I
school.
mean, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. I guess yes. Okay. Because I am who I am for whatever reason, right? Um. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I'm wired the way I am, but for me, this is like mm,
Second nature to you.
second nature. Yeah, I don't even think about it. Um. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. Like maybe people do. That's the thing, right? You can say you love somebody, but isn't talk is cheap, right? It's all in action, you know. So it's like, um, because even like with a cell, right? I can say I love her and do whatever, but um, yeah, I mean, she needs to see action, right? She needs to see action to feel loved. She does. That's just who she is. Like she's yeah. Because I'm pretty bad at like I'm my service isn't when I do services for her, she doesn't really it's only because she like asked me to do it kind of. And then it's not like affirming for her. She's only affirmed by services that I do when she doesn't ask me, right?
Yeah.
She doesn't even notice. She doesn't even care when I do something when she asks me to do it. But if I do something when she doesn't ask me, then she feels loved, right? Because for her, like, that's an action of love. Like I care, saying I care don't mean shit because I say it all the time, you know? Um,
Yeah. So for
yeah.
her, like the love of acts of service is like in her mind probably something that's like natural and like just kind of a given. But for you, it's probably more of an X's and O's thing that you have to work on.
Yeah.
Like for me, saying I love
Yeah.
you, that's not natural for me. I always feel awkward regardless of who it is, you know. So I just
Yeah.
have to like rep it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So certain things that I find second nature are not for others, right? And vice versa, right? I mean, I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So some people are just like the greatest lovers in the history of the world. And I'm not. I mean, yeah, like I feel like I do. If she asks me to do everything, I'll do it. Literally, like whatever she asks me, I'll just do it. But like, if she doesn't ask me, like I don't even think about it. And
Yeah.
that's what
That's
kind of irks her. She's
not
like,
common sense. And for her, it's kind of like if I have to tell you to do it, then it's not really love.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good point, right? People are just, yeah, we're all just different. But yeah, so what I find is common sense is not to somebody else. And they're not going to, yeah. And we will have trouble seeing each other's viewpoints just because whatever reason, right? Yeah. Because who knows? So,
So I'll answer that question and let's wrap up because we've actually already an hour has gone by.
yeah.
I mentioned it before. My one piece of advice as a non-parent, who knows if I actually become one, what it would be. But yeah, I feel like it's to be the best version of yourself. I feel kids model. I feel
Yeah.
like that's the 80/20. Like if you live your life the best way that you can, then the kids will see that and they will model that good behavior. I feel like what's overrated is me giving them advice or telling them what to do or what's good or what's bad. Um, because everyone has certain things that they're more inclined to do or not to do. And so for me to give advice is like they may not need that advice or it may not apply to them. So I feel like, yeah, the best way to be a parent is to just be the best version of myself and let my kids see that. And I feel like, especially as like teenagers, this is a theory of why I feel most parents have issues with teenagers is because the teenagers love the parents, but I don't think they really respect them as an individual.
Hmm. Okay. So about the respect thing, actually, that's more of like it's like a primal, it's a natural instinct, a primal instinct.
For the
Yeah.
teenager to not respect the parent?
Yeah. Because
Why?
if you're talking about from just like a nature standpoint, right? Teenagers are have to separate, right, from the pack, right? That's like the time in your life where you're like learning
Okay.
to become an adult, right? You're transitioning to an adult. And so in those ages, you you have to detach from your parents, and that's part of the process. Is like, I know more than you. My individual thoughts have to separate from what your thoughts. Otherwise, I can't stand alone, right? So it's like this mechanism built in where like kids will just start to they have to say like, oh, I know my thoughts are different than yours. I know more than you. Uh, yeah, that's why it always happens in the teenage years. It's just like it's built in. I learned this in school.
You can disagree, but still respect. But you said like wanting to separate from the pact. What if the pact also respects the parent?
The pack.
Yeah.
No, like pack is like your family, like your parents. Like
Okay.
yeah,
Because they
like
want to be. So you're saying because they want to be like unique, like
an
a fucking
individual.
snowflake or something.
Yeah,
They
that's
can
why
still
there's like
disagree though, but still
this.
respect. What I don't see is a lot of respect between teenagers to the parent.
Yeah, that's because they don't. They're saying they're thinking to themselves, "Oh, they don't know anything. They don't know any. I know everything." I mean, remember when you were a teenager?
Yeah, but I didn't really like I love my parents, but they weren't like people I looked up to or like I would say like, "Oh, I respect them."
Okay, yeah,
Let me ask you this. Do you think like Bronny James or like LeBron's kids or Tiger Woods kids respect their parents?
yeah. I mean, certain parts of them, sure,
Do you think
but
they
I'm sure.
respect
Yeah,
them
but I'm
more
sure
than
that
like
there's
other
still.
parents?
I mean, there's still going to be. Yeah, they're still going to be disrespectful sometimes. You just have to be. It's just like part of growing up. You know, you start to like see them less as parents and more as like equals. That's why like I feel like all there's like always like the same kind of arc, right? There's like teenage years, very rebellious, going against each other, and then like you become like a young adult, and life kind of smacks you in the face, and then once you're finished, once you're like in adulthood, like the various beginning stages of adulthood, I feel like all humans, all people, really become like appreciative of what their parents did for them. Because you've kind of gone through your brain's fully formed, you've gone through all those chemical changes, and now you're just like, oh wow, like you realize how much they did for you. you know
Yeah, that I agree with, but you mentioned how kids want to be like unique, like there's that primal urge to be unique and different from their family.
hmm
Um, but I also think for kids there is a need to fit in, to
yeah,
be there's a tribal aspect of it.
yeah, with
Um,
friends.
and if your parent is because he's the best version of himself, like is just a leader in life, leader in his family, leader in the community, leader with people he interacts with, his business or his job, and the kid sees that, I feel that naturally, and that doesn't mean the kid won't or the teenager won't disagree with certain things, but I feel like that parent will have way more influence than over their teenager, and it'd be a little that relationship will be a little bit better versus your kid seeing that you're not really a leader in certain aspects of life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like your example of LeBron. Yeah, LeBron. Yeah, I bet you LeBron's kids are like fantastic kids. I bet he had like not very little problems with them growing up.
So we
Um,
assume, but who knows? We don't know
I mean, like
anything.
if you
But
just look at,
yeah, it's
you
just what
know,
it seems. It seems like the kid, yeah, like he respects LeBron, like Bronny. I don't know what his actual like first name
yeah,
is. I think it's
his actual name is LeBron Jr.
okay. But yeah,
But
it
he
seems like he
changed LeBron.
respects the dad a lot.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, I mean, yeah, he did everything right. He spent all his time with them, right? all this downtime was with them. Like, he's been a good example. Like, he's successful. He's hardworking. He's got a, he's had a successful marriage. He's never gotten in trouble. He's just like, yeah, he's provided, yeah, generational wealth forever. Just, yeah. I mean, of course
Right.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. I guess it could be just, yeah. I mean, LeBron did it right. I guess the big issue, I feel like the older you get, I think it worked for LeBron also too because God, when you're young, you just have more energy. Those early years, man, they're tough, man. That first 6 months will wreck you, especially if you're like actually trying to help. God, it's just, yeah. I mean, even now, like sometimes I just don't have it,
I mean,
but I
fucking
have those
David
relationships with
Goggins
me where I can
is.
be like, "Hey,
Do you
man,
think
I'm
David
sorry
Goggins
about
would
this."
struggle in the first 6 months?
Hmm?
Do you think David Goggins would struggle in the first 6 months?
David Goggins ain't got no kids. He's too busy running around doing pull-ups.
Because I think he's probably in his mid 40s too now. He might even be in his 50s.
He don't. I can't imagine him wanting kids.
But I feel like he wouldn't really struggle with it.
No, he might. It's different. It's
Huh.
different. Like the reason why I think like LeBron works is because LeBron's a big ass kid, tons of energy, big kid, right? He's the fun dad, be going crazy and making all the money, and his wife's the one like keeping it together. I bet you Savannah's like a amazing mom. She seems real calm. She just has that vibe about her. She's always just very calm and like put together. And LeBron's like the big clown. They have like a good thing going. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like me and the cell. Like the cell holds the shit down, and like I'm just like the fun dad.
Yeah, I feel like, this is definitely not modern age or like could be seen as somewhat like old school and sexist, but like I feel like that's the successful formula is I feel like the wife is the one that is I don't want to say the glue, but more of like the one that nurtures. And I feel like the dad should be the one that is kind of like the respected leader. Granted, you have to like earn it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
but
don't
like
know.
yeah, I mean, there's like I'm sure like the kids respect LeBron, but they also like appreciate him for being a good dad, spending a lot of time with them and being
Yeah.
silly, um, yeah. I mean, like, because between you and Elizabeth, I'm assuming Elizabeth's gonna be she's got the more natural child rearing instincts.
100%. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
like I tell her like I can't imagine, anyone else being like a better like mother than her. Her only issue might be is like she might be a little too nurturing to the point where it's like might be a little suffocating. Um,
yeah, yeah. I
but
mean,
then
yeah, yeah, yeah. But she
pretty,
also has that
pretty
like the tiger side of her too, So she'll have like a good balance, I think.
by tiger side, like
No, yeah. No, you don't think so?
there's a little bit of like a she's very empathetic, but she kind of has I don't say a coldness to her, but like maybe the better word is like could probably yeah, good disciplinarian would be able to set good boundaries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She
Yeah.
has. Yeah, I think she could do both. You know. Yeah.
So
So like, all you have to do is just like, you know, make the money and step in once in a while and like throw it down or something. Or are you
I
gonna be the
feel like it's
pushover dad that's
equally
like
as hard
buying all
though.
the stuff?
No, I mean shit, like trying to be a leader not with like other people, but just in life and with yourself and your family. I feel like that's equally as hard as like trying to raise a kid.
Okay, yeah, but then yeah. Yeah, it's just as hard. I mean, yeah, there's so many hats. Um, yeah, it's tough. The hats are tough. Even
I
the
don't think
husband
they're
hat.
hacks.
Husband
That's the
hat gets
thing.
neglected the most, I would say.
If there were hacks, they would be easy, but I think it's hard because there really are no hacks
No,
to be. Oh, hats.
not hacks.
Okay.
Hats. Dad hat. You know, whatever your business is hat. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's tough.
All right, let's wrap up. Actually, last thing, how do you feel about your wife listening to this?
I tell her all this shit. She's heard everything I said. She knows where I
Okay.
stand. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's all I'm like. Yeah. Only thing is that only reason I kick out May is because I can't like cuss, and that's like part of who I am, you know. So I'm like, if I can't, because she doesn't even know that I cuss. So like, yeah.
Yeah, my wife asked me, and told her that I was hesitant about her listening to it. And this is a whole separate issue, but I told her like at the core, it's because, yeah, like I'm not fully comfortable or feel safe yet to be, to talk to her about things or be fully congruent.
Hmm.
So, yeah, and I told her
Well.
like I didn't really want to like have to filter myself when I do this. And so,
Hmm. Yeah. But then,
and
if you think about it, if like you're giving access to like the rest of the world basically, and you're asking her not to, it's kind of, I don't know.
yeah,
That's a
but it's a
that's a
theory
that's
that
a tough that's a tough thing to sell.
it's always easier to share a secret with a complete stranger than a loved one, though.
Yeah, I understood.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's call it a wrap.
All right, man. George Clooney.